There could be only one podcast. And may it be Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt.
And I'm Wes. What is this podcast about exactly?
I don't know.
Did we ever answer that question for that gentleman?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm still answering that. I'm still asking that question, though. I'm still asking that question. There's two shows that go on: the show that we record and the show that we don't.
Well, the cutting room kind of preps us for the next episode.
Oh boy, does it!
Yeah, I feel like it's the, it's like beginning of a game when you chant and you get going and you get fired up and, you do your Ric Flair woos.
We're still talking about the previous subject that we talked about off the mic.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Dance all night and stay a little longer.
There you go. Woo! There you go.
So who are we discussing tonight?
The tragic fall of Adonis, who I never had heard about. I did not know about this character at all. It was very interesting to find out. Very brave and bold choice to make from way back in the day.
Yep, for sure. Ahead of his time.
Really ahead of its time. And again, a tragic story, of course. What did you know? Because I didn't know anything about him.
I knew Adrian when early WWF, after the East-West connection had come and gone with Jesse. It was when he was adorable Adrian, is when I first remember watching him as a kid.
And what did you think?
Well, I think that they didn't really dig into how many different ideas they threw into that character. Is he cross-dressing? Is he gay?
You didn't really know. Just a pretty boy.
Well, I mean, he wasn't a pretty boy by any means. They made him look bizarre.
Well, yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Something like that. But
one of his eyes would be painted, and
like the dog off of Little Rascals or something. Like it was just a weird presentation. But he was good in the ring. He could move around for a big guy.
Yeah.
And my biggest memory of him was the Piper match for Piper's retirement at WrestleMania 3 when they did the hair match and they brought Brutus out there to cut his hair because got to take care of Brutus, brother.
I mean, beefcake.
And
he was featured on this too.
Mm-hmm.
He and his wife were. Yeah. So they were good friends of Adonis there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought it was that was my memory of him. But when I started really following the business in the late 90s and kind of digging into the backstory of it, one of the most memorable stories was always the fight with him and Dan Spivey backstage and how Dan just kind of handled him. And that, once again, kind of goes back to our Matt Bourne episode. Those guys were legit tough guys, and when one of them pushed the other one, you were going to see who was going to be the toughest. It was not going to be a pull-apart brawl. Those guys were going to go at it.
And if you got broke in front of everyone in the clubhouse, then it's almost, in a way, it's so weird. It's almost like prison. Now everyone knows you ain't the top dog no more. You failed. You dropped. You're not king anymore.
Even and I think a lot of guys knew Dan Spivey was dangerous, and Adrian was a tough guy too. But once you get really beat up the way Adrian was, and he was already kind of on a slippery slope with chemicals at that time.
Right.
But you kind of get handed to you in front of your peers, didn't do him any favors.
No. And it was sad. And again, I love how Dark Side of the Ring shows some of the footage of the matches and stuff, and it shows his appearance, his physique starts to slide. And you can easily see the wrestling moves get lazier. They get slower. Everything comes down to a crawl. You're thinking, wow, is this the same guy that just a few years earlier was doing this amazing stuff in the ring? Like you said, moving like a big boy, moving as quick as he was.
And I think it kind of goes back to the Dog situation because he and Dog came in at the same, in that
same
early
era.
WWF where it was really changing. Mm-hmm. But that schedule and that lifestyle, if you are not taking care of yourself, and even if you are, things wear down. I mean, all those guys in the 80s wore down. They were just going at it too hard.
Yeah.
And they paid the price.
Well, I mean, I think multiple stories talk about, how they were just dialing up to 100 every night on and off, and your body just can't take that.
And he could do, he did the flare bump over the top rope, kind of like, like I said, Rick would do. But, Adrian's 60 pounds bigger than Rick, too.
It's
at
more,
least.
Yeah.
He looked like the Kool-Aid man out there running around.
Oh, yeah.
It was just kind of perplexing to watch this big guy work that quick. And I thought the story with his wife at the time was good. Thought that came off well, that he came off like a kind of guy that they did a good job of spinning him into a family man with, an outside life that kind of got out of control.
Right. No, I agree.
He didn't come across like Matt Bourne, that's for sure.
No, where it's just a train wreck from start to finish with no hope.
Correct.
In sight. No, I agree with that. Does Mr. Futch have a story about meeting Adrian and Adonis?
No.
Oh.
No, unfortunately.
Can he have one prepared for us next time he comes on?
Well, I doubt it. I doubt it. You got to lay it out for him. He's not one to everyone when but when Heath wants to work, he could take that bump over the top rope.
He would, there. Just like Ric Flair?
Yeah.
Ric Flair bump.
Oh, yeah. He can do that when he needs to.
He needs a nap first, though.
But like I said, I think the Adrian story, the most, other than his death, which was very sad, obviously, and the other guy's brother died, that just kind of added to it. And then the fact that Rocky Johnson's brother goes kind of by Rocky Johnson's name, that was very bizarre.
Yeah, so the car wreck is what they talk about. And what's really sad about, it's sad hearing about the twin wrestler, talking about his brother, talking about the wreck, talking about everything that happened, and that someone else went down there and robbed him?
Yes.
That's just, whoa. I mean,
it doesn't seem, that's just so far. And I almost wonder if that's wherever they were at was in such an outlining area.
Now, was it ever, they don't reveal who it was, but obviously they had to have known, right? No?
I don't know. I mean, it could, I don't know. I don't know
Still,
if it was one of the boys or not, but you would have to wonder, because those guys traveled at odd times of night. Yeah. For one, if you see that, are you going to get out and try to help somebody rather than rob them? But if I think that, they did hint it was one of the boys. That just shows how the business was kind of really bad off.
I mean, it's like carnies at a carnival, you don't trust them with your wallet or nothing.
Or your women, for sure.
No, that's for sure. But I just thought, man, that is some rough stuff. That's, sleazy dirtbag through and through, the ultimate there.
Yeah.
I mean, because these guys, if it is one of the boys, that's someone who y'all are traveling together, you know each other, and you would do that in a heartbeat? Why? Because you hate the guy? Even if you hate the guy, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I think it was more of like just the circuit that they were on with.
That's a den of thieves stuff there.
Yeah.
That's some tragic stuff. But no, I thought and I never knew about the redhead twins and everything, but listening to him talk, I really felt bad for him.
Yeah, I thought that they did a good job to flesh out Adrian's story by doing that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Adrian's career had quite enough.
It didn't have enough gas to get to the end of the story, and I think they knew that, and they knew that they had a story, and I wonder how that progressed, because after I watched the episode, I thought just like you did. I said, wow, the story kind of shifted a little bit there for a good 6 minutes or 7 minutes. They took a detour and went to his, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed immensely, but I think Chris Jericho is the producer on all these. I can't remember who directed it, but I bet they were just sitting there on the cutting room floor and say, hey, look, we got this twin story.
We got a story here.
We interviewed him to talk about the wreck, but, they keep interviewing these guys probably for hours.
Yeah.
And I said, look what he's talking about his twin. This is a good story. Let's, on his own, that guy can't hold an episode because no one knows him.
Sure.
No one cares.
But they can
relate it's connected to this episode.
Losing someone important and linking it to Adrian. So yeah, I thought
linking it to Adrian. So it was. I think that was a call in the cutting room floor. I said, you know what, we don't have enough to go on here, and this is a good part of the story. Let's add this in there and pad some time there. and we can keep the runtime in and keep his story in because it's a good story.
And probably adds to your distaste for thinking that so here's these guys with this brotherhood that are passing away and a literal brother, and then you've got these other outlining vagrants that are like robbing each other at the crime scene.
It shows a good dichotomy of people
like pirates.
Yeah.
R.
There you go. All right, so good episode. Next one. I really enjoyed this one, Abdullah the Butcher.
Yeah, Abby is an interesting character. He's been on a lot of those dark sides, mainly when Brody died, because Abby worked so much in Puerto Rico. But Abby's got I don't really, for what you can see about Abby's career, it's unfortunate where he's at right now. But I don't know, any of those guys who were involved in that Puerto Rico thing, it just seems like more could have been done. And I feel like Abby had a lot of issues, and Abby's notorious for kind of like Brody. He would hold up promoters for money and not want to do business. So at the end of your life, and you've kind of treated people like that,
you're going to be alone. You shouldn't
be
surprised.
Correct.
I kind of felt that way too, because the other lady who's taking care of him obviously cares about him, makes you want to feel bad about him, about how poor his living conditions are, how poor his health is. Then the big one that they questioned was he never learned to read, is what they said. And that's what he's claiming. Yet everyone else, I love Mick Foley's laugh. He's like, I never heard that, and I won't call him a liar, but he knew how to read a menu. He ordered on the menu. He didn't have any trouble saying, what's this? Do you have this? He ordered on the menu. So that's a bold-faced lie. And then that starts to unravel things as, well, okay, well, how, innocent or how, they're trying, it's an episode about him. They brought him in there. They're letting him share his story. And it feels like, I think this is one of the times we hear the person off camera ask him a question.
Yeah.
Is Chris Jericho just on every one of these episodes? Is he the one because it sounded like it was Chris.
I don't think he's interviewing, but I think he.
Sometimes I hear
narrating.
Sometimes I think I hear his voice. Is that not him?
If he is, I'm not
maybe not. I could be mistaken. They don't say. They just, you hear someone in the back say something. I can always imagine. Maybe I'm just imagining it's Chris, but. But yeah, that girl tried her best to make Abdul seem like this victim and
sympathetic figure.
He's the kindest man in the world, soup kitchen story or whatnot, loving on the boy and everything. Well, yeah, when you don't have anyone left, you got to be kind with whoever's left. You're just grasping at straws now to find anyone who'll.
He was notorious. There's a story about when he got inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame, probably 10 years ago. And he kind of called out Johnny Ace backstage and just kind of dressed him down when Johnny Ace is like, running talent relations. It's just the guy
couldn't keep his mouth shut.
He just didn't know how to do business, which is part of why, regardless if people would argue that, he never had a run with Vince, is because one, his style just couldn't hold that kind of schedule. But, if you're going to feed Hogan monsters, you can definitely make Abby a payday for not necessarily WrestleMania, but for Saturday night's main event or something like that. You can do something and pay him enough money to put Hogan over. But that just shows how unreliable, as far as a businessman, he was there.
And that's his reputation
was nothing but 5 minutes and blood.
And that's it.
Yep.
Did you ever watch him wrestle back in the day?
I would watch him a little bit. He was in wrestling magazines when I was a kid.
Did he scare you?
Yeah.
Scared a lot of people back then.
Yeah, he was
the raw livers and the.
He was an odd looking.
It was a believable character because he had that crazy eye look and everything,
and he had those gigantic divots in his head.
Yeah.
From carving himself up,
which adds to the mythos of who he is. I love they played the clip several times where he walks into the crowd and the crowd just runs. They're scared to death of this guy.
Yeah.
So he had a great gimmick. He had a great image. He kept that image through and through. Had a great following, but just, his act was all over the place. His reputation was burned. He burned bridges before he even crossed him, it seemed.
He made enough money. He was such a huge star overseas for decades to be in the position he's in now. Speaks to not being the businessman that he could have been.
Yeah. Oh, obviously.
And
not being as responsible.
You know, he has left a bad taste on a lot of guys' mouths. Like I said, the WWF thing. I mean, if you're getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, I'm not saying it's value. It is a TV show, but you don't want to call out one of their head executives backstage when you're getting this payday.
Yeah.
That could have went to somebody else, where you can do business with these guys and be in DVDs at that time.
It's an ungrateful attitude.
Correct.
To have. It's an ungrateful and selfish attitude, and basically just shows everyone who you are, and hence the reason why he's alone still. Again, once again, just more proof. They did the one where they talked about the guy he gave AIDS to. Hepatitis. Excuse me.
Hannibal.
Hannibal.
Yes.
I knew nothing about this story.
Right. Well,
so
because, you know, it's a lot to kind of dig into on that.
Well, I mean,
I think that, you know, the story is
he wrestled.
Is he liable for Hannibal contracting this? But Hannibal, he's a blood and guts guy too.
That's the thing. He's got to understand there's risk involved.
Yeah. To me, he used that as like a scapegoat for his career and blaming Abby rather than going, well, you know, maybe I should not work this type of style because this is part that goes with it.
I agree 100%. They never brought that up in the episode. They made him, you know, because of course, he's just throwing heat at Abdul the whole time. That's what they wanted, to see both the people who are hating the man and people who are loving the man. But the thing is, though, Hannibal didn't come across as someone else like, well, dude, I mean, that's your gimmick. You're blood and guts, too. You asked for him. You wanted him. It was a pleasure to work with him. Oh, how dare he give you... Well, I'm shocked it wasn't someone else then. Because, I mean, when you're doing blood with anyone, I mean, you can't... What are you doing? You know what these guys are... You know what these guys are doing to their bodies right now. They ain't the perfect paragon of health, you know, and a lot of them, they haven't gotten their shots, I'm sure, and stuff like that. So... anything could have happened. You put your own body at risk when you tear it up like that. And I do agree with you. I think you use that as I could have been great if not for this.
This one thing.
Tell me. And if it hadn't been that, I would. And I mean, guys they look for that one excuse, and they'll harp on it on and again about I could have been great if. Well, I don't know. You could have been great if you would have been more careful with yourself in the first place.
Yeah,
and not to put himself in that situation. I know the episode's not about him, but I thought the exact same thing that you just said. That's funny that you said that.
Well, I think that's, you know, you're taking a current thing that happened, because Abdullah's career is so much more based in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that something that's much more current that is relatable, and neither one of them come off likable.
No, I agree. Neither one. He wasn't the guy who'd been wronged. I didn't feel that at all.
Right.
I do like, you know, and I mean, they always do this. They show the early beginnings, how they're raised and everything. And yeah, you know, guy who tried what he could to, you know, give money to his family. His family absolutely loves him. Obviously, he did a good job. He cared about his family, for one thing. Obviously, did straight by them. Because, I mean, his little brother's promoting him as the greatest ever, you know, and stuff like that. I mean, it makes sense. I'm going to forgive it because it's blood, you know. They're going to support each other. That's fine. So, obviously, he was faithful to the family, I guess I should say. But you're right. He should have been kinder and more grateful to the business who had given him so much. And if he would have been, it would have been a different story with him all entirely.
Yeah. I mean, most of those guys get taken care of when they are Legends deals and they do go in the Hall of Fame. They will help them out. But I think Abby was just Abby.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, because he could have, if he wanted to, he could have had an office job or a training. He could have trained younger people and, you know, all this stuff that all these other, like you said, legends have. They have these little jobs that, you know, not making the big money.
I don't think Abby's going to teach anybody
how to stab themselves with a fork, but
or teach them how to, you know, hip toss each other. But Abby's ability to convey that kind of character is something that's completely lost in the wrestling business.
Oh, absolutely.
He was an attraction for sure. So he can give to the business and could have been used after his playing days were over, lack of a better term. I just don't think he came across well in the documentary, and I think he came across as who he is.
Yeah. No, and I didn't feel sorry for him at all. I agree. The last one we're going to talk about is one that I do know a lot about, Bam Bam Bigelow.
Right.
He hit that stride just right before he was a early 90s, mid 90s guy who
he got
trudged
started
all the way through the 90s.
Yeah,
though.
In the late 80s he got started.
Late 80s, excuse me. Yeah.
So he was a big star for 10 years.
Yeah. Took a running start. You'd always know who he was. I think he was I want to say he was in WCW when I first saw him. The flames on the head. I didn't know if those were real at first, because
right, and he had a hell of a look, man. Nobody had tattoos on their scalp back then.
Nope. Good look. Had a good run with Hogan, which I did not know about before then. Another like Adonis, another bigger guy that was fast in the ring.
Could do a cartwheel for
stuff.
Some unknown reason.
Hey, why not? Why not? Was friends with Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah, the Jersey Boys.
And I did not know that connection. I thought that was hilarious because it was drinking at the bar that Dallas Page was the bodyguard for, and they were friends. And then he said, well, what's that? What's wrestling? I'll do that. Went off to be a wrestler and I guess got a call from Dallas Page. Well, no. When Dallas finally joined, Bam Bam called him and welcomed him to the show, which I thought I never knew about that connection. That was really awesome to hear about.
Well, they had a little thing at the dying days of WCW with him and Chris Kanyon. That was one of those failed Russo experiments, I believe.
Oh, no, I didn't know about this. What was it?
They were the Jersey Triad or something, and it was kind of like Wolfpack Freebird rules where they were tag champions, but any of the three could defend the belts. Oh. But it just came and went.
Right, wasn't really
we're just going to try
an idea out of Vince Russo's mind that just went nowhere, and he was gone. He was already 3 steps away from that storyline the moment it started.
But I think Bam Bam was a major player. Definitely the Lawrence Taylor thing is his.
That's the biggest thing he did.
Yeah, as far as like media.
That got a big. Everyone's talking about that.
To headline a WrestleMania, and he was a big part of ECW with Shane Douglas and Chris Candido when they were the Triple Threat, and the match with Taz is very memorable when they go back and.
It was nice to see Taz talk about him too.
Yeah, and I thought Taz came off probably better than anybody on that show.
Really?
In my opinion, I thought that Taz gets a lot of flack for his attitude, but I thought Taz came across pretty respectful of Bam Bam and what Bam Bam did for his career and spoke
absolutely
highly and just came across like a professional.
Well, he was humble about it, and talked about how great that was and how that helped him out in his career and everything else. And I agree. I didn't know that he had an image of being, a jerk. Taz?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Is it still around today?
I think that it probably has a little bit to this day, but he's out of the business so much from a focal standpoint that you lose a little bit that when you get a little older and you get a little
more sentimental, a little more humility. You realize it doesn't have to be all about you, and you kind of get a broader idea of what it's all about.
But Bam Bam I think he was a legitimate dude, but he was another guy that made some really questionable decisions and said a lot of ignorant things. He tied into it with Andre. My God, if there's one guy you don't want to get on the bad foot with, is Andre.
Yeah.
Because Andre kind of runs the locker room.
Yeah.
So if he goes, I'm not going to do business with this guy, it's not going to help you at all.
No. That seems like a death nail when you're new, trying to get into the business or trying to be friendly with the locker room. You always respect the veterans, the people who run the place.
Yeah,
like back in the day, everyone knew that whatever the Undertaker wants, he gets. you don't do anything unless you ask the Undertaker first. You don't ask Vince McMahon. You got to check with the Yeah, it was all the stories of the Undertaker, who kind of replaced Andre, because Andre had the same stories too. If Andre gives the okay on it,
yeah, he was probably the next most respected guy out of the business for sure, and for sure to this day. I just thought that didn't do him any favors. I thought that he bounced around so much.
He did bounce around a lot.
And I think that kind of showed his reliability and his, you've got to be some political side to this. This is not, it's just like a regular job. And, Kevin Nash told an interesting story about Bam Bam, I don't know, a year or so ago, about they were in a convenience store in WCW, him and Scott, and Bam Bam was riding with them, and they went into, a different part of town, Latino-based, and Bam Bam just kind of popped off at these guys and got everybody in a real bad situation really, really quick. And they were once they got out of it, they told him, they said, "You're not riding with us anymore." You got to, you need to learn these people don't care that you're a wrestler and you got tattoos on your head. These are real dangerous people. Don't make these people angry.
Picking fights with everyone you come across just because who you are, you think they'll back away.
That story kind of lends itself to Bam Bam's career, where there were just some times where he seemed to always make the wrong decision. Like a lot of the guys that we talk about on Dark Side.
Well, I mean, that's you wouldn't be on Dark Side of the Ring if you didn't.
Their business acumen was much lower than their physical talent. All
right, that's true. So let me ask you this: What was Bam's height of his career? Is it the match with LT? Is it his tag team success with Hogan? Is it his?
No, I would definitely say his to be on a WrestleMania with a major Hall of Fame athlete.
Probably the highest. I'd agree.
For sure. But I do think that Bam Bam's ECW work holds up pretty well. And I once again go back to that Doink thing. I mean, they were in that video game, that arcade game in like 95. And I mean, there was only like 8 guys on that game. And Bam Bam made the cut. I mean, Diesel didn't make the cut. Kevin Nash didn't make the cut. So, I mean, he was definitely marketable. And I think that they tried to market him. And I'm not saying that Vince couldn't be swayed, but I definitely think that they tried with him, but he just couldn't play ball with the right people. And it just haunted his career. And then he died a very sad, tragic way. And I know some people kind of look at like substance abuse, maybe not a tragic way, but I definitely do.
No, I agree with that.
Especially when you got like your kids are sitting there on camera, just emotionally shot.
Wrecked.
Wrecked.
Wrecked from that. No, I agree. Let me ask you this. So the Bam Bam episode is very good. I got another question though. You mentioned this. Who do you think was in the history? Who do you think was the most respected wrestler in the locker room? Was it Andre? Was it Undertaker? Is there a third person you think was just as respected? I hear a lot of Andre and I hear a lot of Undertaker. I don't hear of a third person as much as I hear those.
I think Harley was well respected. Okay. And I would say Terry Funk was well respected by far. I mean, that's why ECW worked with that last run by Terry. I think Foley was respected.
Oh, in the locker room, okay.
Yeah. I think because everyone could see what he was giving to the business.
Oh, yeah. You're giving your body.
And made every top guy in the WWF, he worked with them. Everybody in that run. And did what he could to make their career. So, yeah, I would say those guys come to mind.
Okay.
But as far as like a current wrestler, I just think the business is so different.
Yeah, I don't think that yeah.
I think, Undertaker's the last of those guys that could kind of run a locker room. I mean, there's a lot of guys that lasted a long time in the business, but I don't think they kind of
have the ear of every wrestler.
They're not going to pull somebody aside or throw them out of the locker room. Benoit was that way. Benoit was a leader in a certain way. I mean, he ran a tight ship. Now, granted, we're not going to get into all the aftermath of that.
Right.
But that guy, anybody that respected the business to that degree, I think that was a lot of it.
Yeah, no, obviously so. Yeah, you got to put in your years, your lumps, your everything.
So probably Harley would be
sacrifice.
the one I
Harley.
would say
Okay.
out of the next tier of guys.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, good stuff. All right, folks. When we come back, we've still got in the following weeks some more episodes to talk about for Dark Side of the Ring. But we'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.